All right. And we should be live. Boom. We are out here. I am working from the house today. I'm outside at the porch, in the wilderness a little bit. It's hot out here, sweating a little bit. But fortunate enough to get a guy to come on that has a really good following on LinkedIn. I ran across him just from following like-minded people. His name's Jordan Mendoza. Jordan, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Anytime I can hopefully add value to an audience, that's my goal.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing, right? Try to add some value, maybe try to entertain some people at the same time. Do them both at the exact same time if you can. That's probably the best way to do it. But I don't know much about you. I see that you're in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in Chattanooga, so we're not too far away. But you're doing things that I want to do, and that's the people that I'm going after when I want to have conversations and I want to bring to this platform to kind of talk people through it. Because a lot of people that follow me now are also trying to do that as well. So,
Sure.
how'd you get started in content creation? And what exactly is it that you do right now? And just kind of tell, the quick elevator pitch your story, and then we can dive in deep.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I kind of got started on LinkedIn as an accident. Back in 2019, it was a goal that I was working for a property management company. I actually spent 15 years in multifamily housing. I started as a leasing agent, then became an assistant property manager, and then I was in training and development for 8 years. And while I was a trainer, we were down in Florida with my boss, and he's like, "Man, we got to get our associates active on social media. So I want you to start researching different platforms that maybe we can put out content and have them actually get more engaged." And so I went through them all, man. I went through Facebook, wasn't really moving the needle. Went on Snapchat, couldn't really figure the thing. I still can't figure Snapchat out. my 17 and 13 and 11-year-olds, they've got it down, but I'm still a rookie. But I
Right.
came on LinkedIn, and this is 2019, and this is the time when video really just started to come out. There was some video beta testing going on, and I remember, just the platform looked different. It felt different. It wasn't the place you just went and put your resume and hope to get a job. I started to see this shift. And so I started consuming content kind of like you, right? Finding people that maybe I could resonate with. And I started seeing them putting out content. And I was like, man, I feel like I could do this, but I was afraid. I was like most people. I was like, you know what? Who the heck's going to want to listen to me? Like, who wants to hear anything that I have to say? And so a guy I connected with named Brian Schulman, he's been a mentor to me since 2019, but he had a FaceTime with me, and he's like, bro, like, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me, what makes you tick? What are some things you're good at? And I kind of just went into my story a little bit, and he's like, brother, like, you're going to have a bigger brand than me one day. He's like, I can see it. If you have that same energy and that same passion. And he's like, don't focus on metrics. Don't focus on views, because we can get caught up in that stuff. He said, just focus on inspiring one person a day. And I was like, you know what? That's actually not that hard, right? I feel like I can make someone smile, or, encourage someone, or say something that can help one person out. And honestly, Gunnar, it takes the pressure off of us, right? Because
Sure.
we put a lot of pressure on that we have to impact all these people. But what if it just started with one? And so that's what I did, man. I started showing up. I started putting out sales videos. I've been in sales and marketing now for over 27 years, since I was 14 years old. And so I've got a few tips. I've got some tricks. I've got some things that aren't going to work, right? I've got some things that are going to work. And so I just started putting out content. In April 19, my first video, of them were me, because I kept rewatching the video, and
Yeah.
and then from then, man, it was kind of off to the races. I went from 7,000 connections in April. In December of 19, I had 20,000 followers, and I was like, wow, like where did all these people come from? This is like a stadium full of people that I've now captivated. And so I started kind of thinking, like, what did I do to get there? And we'll dive into a little bit about what I do today, because a lot of it stemmed from that research.
That's very interesting. So you pretty much, when you started, you were at 7,000 followers
Yeah,
connections.
connections. Just I built from, who knows? I think I had the account since '06 or something, right? Like everybody had it, and we would just connect with people we knew. I mean, that was kind of the old LinkedIn. You connected with people you knew, like all your coworkers, and then you'd show up whenever you needed a job or you got a new job. I mean, that was kind of like what people did on the platform.
So my experience with LinkedIn, I got it when I was in college. So I was in college 09 to 2013. I was in one computer class and I wasn't paying attention to anything. I was like, you know what, dude, I'm going to build out my LinkedIn profile. Seems like something I should probably do getting ready to go into the job market. So I did mine probably like 2010. And I would just follow people that were mutual connections for the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And then like the fields I was kind of looking at exploring and getting into, which was like sales and pharmaceutical sales and stuff like that. Ultimately got into logistics. And then just over the years from probably 2014 up until last year around August when I really made my push, it was just connections through logistics. I probably had like 2,000 connections up, about a year ago. And now I started my push as far as like putting some content out. Not great content, just trying to put something out there, right? Just trying to do a little bit of something. And really didn't hammer it till January, but it's already like almost to 5,500. And it's like that grows really fast. So imagine if I really put a strategy behind this. I guess that's where I want to ask you, what's the strategy? Once you kind of figured out what it was you were doing to
Yeah,
get from 7 to 20 and to build that's a stadium. You're right. That is a stadium.
100%. Yeah.
People, what's your strategy to go from 20 to 60?
Yeah, from 20 to 60, man. So it was a lot of reps. It's a lot of putting in the reps, right? So once I figured out what was attractive about what I was doing, right, with the methodology, because again, I wasn't selling a single thing. It was literally just content that if you consumed it and you actually went and applied it, it would move the needle for you in your life. And I think that's the best content, right? Like, go test it. Go test this theory and see if it actually works for you. So that's the type of stuff I put out. And man, how did I get there? Well, there's a few things I noticed early on. First of all, most people's profile was terrible. Okay. And what I mean by terrible is it was literally they took their resume, they copied it, they pasted it and put it in their about summary, and made themselves sound really awesome, which is great, right? It's great and we have to have accomplishments, but that stuff's really meant for the experience section, right? It's meant
Right.
for where you worked and where you went to school, and your about summary. Guess who that you,
Yeah.
right? That's about you as a human being. And so what I discovered is that if I could give people deep context on me and they could learn a little bit more about me from a personal background story and kind of go along with me on the journey, man, that would be pretty impactful. So I started kind of messing around with my profile. And it's funny because it's not what it looks like today. Today it's pivoted and it looks completely different than back then. But what I did back then really helped with SEO. It helped give people deeper context and actually get to feel like they connected with me a little bit better. And most people's connections they're written from the third person. They're not really dialed in from a storytelling perspective. And honestly, that's what people want, right? They want to see, do I see myself in this person? Can I resonate on some level? How do I connect with their story? And so that's really where I started to make that shift. The other thing that I did was I had to optimize my bio. I had to figure out what keywords were going to garnish higher results on the platform. And that's something people didn't really understand, that when Microsoft took over, SEO became a massive, massive thing on the platform. And so I started to capitalize off that. I also changed my background image, right? Because I had that blue or gray one that LinkedIn used to give you. And I realized that LinkedIn's giving us a free billboard, guys. Like, why not use this and have some type of call to action? So those are kind of the early things that I did. It really was foundational, because it doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. A lot of times, guys, you got to go back to the basics. And if your profile on LinkedIn is not optimized and dialed in, you could put out all the content in the world, but if people come on that profile and it's not ready to receive visitors, right? It's not ready to give people a reason to do something next, then you're actually missing the boat.
So, how important would you say the LinkedIn profile and the ability to grab an audience and to grab a community in your LinkedIn is when it comes to any job market or any industry, especially when it comes to sales and marketing? How important is that for people that are in this to understand it and to start making these processes and start implementing the foundation and the X's and O's like you talked about and getting their
Yep.
SEO right, creating a good LinkedIn profile? How important is that?
I would say it's highly more important than your resume. Highly. Because again, building a personal brand, and what that means is just you showing up as who you are, your authentic self. It's synonymous. You hear Gary Vee say it. It's synonymous with reputation, right? What's your reputation online? Well, if you can start building that and showcasing your skill sets, like your gifts, your talents, your ability. I mean, I've had people reach out to me for brand partnerships, and I was just like, "Where did you find me?" They're like, "We saw you on LinkedIn. We saw you on TikTok. We saw you somewhere." And it's all about visibility, guys. Like, if you're not showing up, people aren't going to know who you are. And this is the way that people are consuming in 2022, right? They're not turning on the TV. They're actually going on to LinkedIn or to TikTok or to Instagram or Facebook to try to find something to consume. And so when you do start to show up, you put yourself in a bracket where there's still really not a whole lot of creators, right? There's a deficit, right? So there's a lot of people consuming, but there's not a lot of people creating. And what you get to benefit from that is I get DMs like I got about 3 months ago from a company in Europe that hired me as a consultant on a SaaS project because of my multifamily background. So now that's, that's obviously turned into revenue, and now it might turn into a partnership. So again, they never liked anything. They never commented on a single video, but they were watching.
You
And
know,
so
somebody had a
it's so,
post.
so important.
Somebody had a post. Sorry to cut you off. Somebody had a post, and they said 90% of people on LinkedIn are lurkers. They're watchers. 9% of people on LinkedIn are consumers, and 1% of people on LinkedIn currently in 2002, as of August, are creators. So right now, if you just start creating anything, you join the 1%. How often do you get opportunity
100%.
1% of a company that has over 600 million eyeballs on it? There's over like 600 million profiles on LinkedIn. So why not be in the 1% of that,
100%. Yeah, you just start showing up. I mean, even if you showed up one day a week, it's better than nothing, right? It's better than, putting nothing out there. And again, most people that are showing up, they still are they're just showing up. They don't actually have a strategy. And so when I'm working with clients, what we do is we focus on profile first, right? You got to focus on the foundations first. And there isn't a single profile that I look at from week to week that doesn't need help. They all do. And again, it's about context, and it's about having the strategy in place so that when you put out your content and people are going to naturally go to your profile, that it's set up for success. And that's really where a lot of people are missing the boat.
So can people come to you and ask for advice? Is that a
Oh,
service?
100%. Yeah. So we actually, so based on all the feedback, all the failure, all the fumbling around that I did from 2019 to really mid 2020, I actually turned that into a 12-week course. And so now we're teaching people to go from optimizing their profile, okay, to monetizing it in just 90 days. And the reason we can do that is it's literally a step by step process, so that it doesn't matter if you are selling fishing lures like one of the companies I'm a partner in. It doesn't matter if you are teaching chefs how to run a business like one of my clients does. It works for any business because again, there's a system and a process that's based on actual results that I got for myself. Does that make sense? And so what happens is I get to accelerate people's growth on the platform by kind of jumping past some of the BS that I had to go through to get there. And so yeah, that's what we're doing. We don't just help with personal pages, but we help with company pages. We do everything organic. We don't do any boosting of posts or paid anything yet. We may get into that down the road, but everything we do is purely organic.
Wow. So that's important too, because a lot of these firms and these companies, these marketing agencies that say, hey, we'll get you so many impressions, so many followers, because I've talked to these guys and I'm buddies with a lot of these guys too.
Yep.
It's a lot of money. It's hundreds
100%.
of thousands of dollars for a company to take on a marketing firm when the people there can just go to YouTube or go to a guy like yourself or follow
Yep.
somebody like me and ask me questions, because I've talked to guys like you and I'm starting to kind of gather some information now. We can help you, and you can definitely
100%.
got 60,000 followers on LinkedIn. That's a lot. Like some people, I don't think they understand LinkedIn. So like 10,000 followers on Instagram is not really, a lot, right? It's still pretty good, but it's not really a lot. 60,000 followers on LinkedIn is really good. Like in comparison to your Instagrams and your TikToks and your Facebooks, like that's the ratio, because those are people that actually have money. Those are people that can actually make some decisions. Those are people that can actually generate some revenue for you. So what's probably the most important social media that you have? Is it LinkedIn as far as money goes, or would it be a TikTok or an Instagram? Are you on all of them, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so I'm on all platforms. Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, on all of them. So the two that bring in the most revenue for all of my businesses are LinkedIn and TikTok. I would say that 85% of my organic inbound leads come from LinkedIn. It's 85% organic. Okay. The other probably 10% is TikTok. And then the other five is like referrals, clients, people in a coaching association, people that know my work and they refer people to me. But yeah, TikTok is a sleeper, man. It's one of those places that I got verified. I'm a verified creator on TikTok, which is not easy to do. And the other benefit I have is mine is also a business account. So I'm a verified business account. And man, when I had 1,800 followers in December, and in the last 8 months, I've grown to over 16,000.
Wow.
So it doesn't take long to grow once you figure it out, right? And so what did I do? I invested in a coach. I invested in a guy who had almost 1 million followers, and I said, you know what? Success leaves clues. Let me give this guy $4,000, and in 8 weeks, he gave me a system and a process. And so now I have clients that we help on TikTok based on the knowledge that I invested to learn, and we're helping our clients succeed. I have one client in her first 3 weeks, we've gotten her over 60,000 views, and her videos have been watched for more than I think a total of 8 weeks. If you look at watch
Yeah.
time, I mean, and that's just in 3 weeks. So I mean, we've figured out the system and the process. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. Once you get that down, once you get your systems, your processes down, once you have a strategy that's duplicatable, that's really when you can have a lot of success.
So I know the algorithms are crazy and they're always forever changing, and they don't like tell you what the algorithms are. It's guys like you that kind of you constantly get the reps in, you kind of figure out what they are, I'm assuming. So like with TikTok, because I had a buddy of mine come on a podcast, Chatt on a podcast. His name's Nico. Maybe you should check this one out. He's got millions of followers as well. He's created 3 YouTube channels that they each have over 100,000 followers, and that's his job. That's what he does. He just travels around. He traveled the world. He started one called Back to Life, where he travels the world, and he started one called Nico's Property Show, where he's pretty much doing HGTV, like build a home by himself in Chattanooga. It's awesome, and it's getting all kinds of views. But like, how are you getting your inbound leads? Is it a call to action through TikTok? Is it a call to action through LinkedIn? Or are you just kind of taking people that like your stuff, comment on your stuff, and then reaching out to them in a warmer cold way through direct messaging?
So there's a multiple amount of strategies, and I think you can't just have one. So there's the obvious one where people find you organically, they reach out to connect, you start a conversation that turns into an offline conversation. So that's kind of one way that we get our leads. The other way we get it is through content, right? Maybe we put out a post and it's like, hey, looking for people that want to grow on the platform, and you'll see the link to book a call, right? So we will have content that may have a direct call to action, but a lot of it's just through what we're actually putting out and the engagement and the response, and then that just turning into organic conversations from there. But honestly, I think one of the lowest hanging fruits that a lot of people forget about is LinkedIn Live, right? Like, we're live on LinkedIn right now. Well, I do every week. I've got a group that I go live in, and I also go live on 5 other platforms, and I just do a Q&A for 30 minutes, and I'll do a Q&A, and it'll just be on a topic. Hey, ask me anything about TikTok, ask me anything about LinkedIn, ask me anything about whatever. And typically I'll get 2 to 3 messages afterwards of people that say, hey, I want to find out how I could work with you. And so again, it's leveraging each medium that you have within a platform. Another way that we're getting inbound leads now is we started a newsletter. It's called Trailblazing Tips 5 weeks ago. All right. Guess how many subscribers we had on day one, Gunner?
0.
Right? 5 weeks later, 6 weeks. I think this is the 6th week. Just crossed 14,000.
Wow.
Okay, of the newsletter in just 6 weeks. So now that's another channel that we've already sold sponsorships on, people that want to sponsor that week's edition. So that's another revenue channel. And now, there's going to be people that say, wow, this audience is large. We would love to get this many eyeballs on X. And so that's going to turn into maybe more permanent sponsors for the newsletter. So again, it's leveraging all of the tools that the platforms have. Okay. Another tool that I just tested out was the audio feature. I'd never done it. I failed a bunch in trying to get it started. I fumbled around and still had some great conversations, and one of those turned into an offline call. So again, it's showing up, right? You got to show up. You pick your medium. Some people prefer audio over video. So just figure out what works for you. But I would also advise that you mix up the place that you're giving yourself. And so not just through your content, but maybe through a live, not just through a live, but maybe through, an event, that a different type of event you're hosting. So it's about showing up, being present, and then making sure you're engaging. Engagement is probably the biggest missing link. A lot of people just post and ghost their audience, and there's people out there just wondering where you went, wondering if you're off for the day, So again, a lot of those little things, man, they make a big difference.
Well, I know. So the post and go strategy, I think, is good if you're like trolling, if you're having fun on social media. But
Sure.
posting go is not good if you're trying to build a business and build a brand.
100%.
Community. So you got to separate those two. You got to figure out, are you doing this recreationally, or are you doing this to actually make this as a company or a business or as a future? So I agree with you on that. You've talked about Gary Vee a couple times now. I love watching Gary Vee stuff. I love that hustle mindset. Are you on the Gary Vee bandwagon as far as like post as much stuff as possible, or are you more about posting quality? I know
Yeah,
there's a
so
post as much
you know,
quality.
it's interesting because when I'm working with clients, of course, it's like, listen, you've got to show up, whatever that looks like for you, right? Whatever that level of consistency. If I'm advising anyone on LinkedIn, it should be once a day, right? One piece of content a day that you're showing up with. I've seen people do 2 pieces or 3 pieces. So I don't really think that there's necessarily if less is more or more is less or anything like that. But I think you have to figure out what works for you, right? Because now I will tell you this, even with an audience like I have, if I don't show up for a handful of days, which happens sometimes because I'm running a few different businesses, then I suffer from that. Does that make sense? Like even me with a large audience, I still have to build that back up if I've disappeared, right? Because that means that amount of days I didn't lose it, but the people that I would normally consistently engage with also lost the benefit of me being there. Does that make sense? And so that's the thing that I would tell you is like figure out your cadence. I would say do it consistently. If it's once a week, just consistently show up once a week. If it's every day, consistently show up every day. And then keep in mind that if you disappear, you're not special. You're not so special that everyone has to come back and show up on day one. Like realize that it may take a few days for the algorithm to start pushing your content back to your normal audience.
Right. A lot of people don't know that. Like if you get away, LinkedIn forgets about you, and they don't. It's like, hey, if this
Sure.
guy's
100%.
probably going to keep posting this stuff up and putting it at the top, right? Because a lot of people don't go to the LinkedIn newsletter and go to most recent. They just go to the top, and that's going to be the one that LinkedIn kind of pushes up there towards the top based off your community, or from what I gather, right? So something I like to ask everybody before I get them off here. I know you're extremely busy, so we'll let you go run some more businesses and post some more content and get all that stuff out. But what's one tip you would give to somebody right now that has a bad LinkedIn profile that's trying to grow? What's one tip you'd give them to get started today?
So one tip, if your LinkedIn profile, if you look at it and you know it needs some work, right? And that's going to be a lot of people watching, a lot of people listening, just because we see this a lot. So my tip is take a look at your billboard that LinkedIn gives you for free. And okay, that's your banner image. And ask yourself this question: does this represent me and my brand? And am I telling people what to do next? Okay, so that's the first thing I would say. The second thing, I would look at your actual picture, your picture of you, and ask yourself, is this me today? Or is this my college picture? Do I still have the cap and gown on? Is this me before I had a beard, right? Like, so it should look like you today, right? Because you're on LinkedIn today. The next thing I would look at is your headline, your tagline, and I would ask myself, have I written this from a service perspective and a keyword perspective? And if you haven't, I would try to do that. The other thing is you also have a lot of text there for a call to action. So what do you want people to do? Do you want people to message you? Do you want people to reach out to you? Okay. So those are really the first 3. The next thing is I would look at that about summary and ask yourself this question: does this give people deep context into who I am as a human? Okay, because on LinkedIn, just spoiler alert, we're not working with robots, guys. We're working with human beings. And so I would, if that first line is not a hook that's going to be compelling enough to keep your audience reading, then I would work on editing that. If you need help, reach out to me on any platform. I'm happy to jump on a call with anybody. So hopefully that's helpful.
Jordan, thank you so much, man. Where could everybody find you other than LinkedIn at your profile? Where could they find you? And you can plug anything right now you need to.
Yeah, so you can find me on really most platforms. I'm at Jordan J Mendoza. That's TikTok, Twitter, as well as Instagram. And just message me anytime. We've got our podcast, Blaze Your Own Trail. Fortunate to have listeners now in 68 countries. So you guys make sure to go check out that show. We've had on some incredible guests on the show. And Gunnar, I'd love to have you on sometime since you had me on with your audience. I'd love to bring you over to that side as well. And just honestly, just thanks again for the opportunity. But if you guys need help on any social media platform, that's what we do. We'd love to add value to your business.
Hey, man, well, you said you wanted to make one person happy and bring value to one person. You did it for me today. I really appreciate it. I'll pass it on to some other people. And then
There you
let's
go.
get to the podcast. Let's plan a date, and then maybe we can do
Absolutely.
later on down the road and catch up with you. I really appreciate
Sounds
you,
good,
man.
man. No problem, buddy. Have a good day.
See you, buddy. Bye.